How do we decode the signals people give us and the ones we set to ignore? Hey, I'm Alex. Welcome back to This Is Fine, a Millennial Diary. Today's topic, the color-coded chaos, millennial dating, red flags, green flags, and the elusive beige flags. Yep. We're going to be decoding the signals, the vibes, the walking contradictions, and the things we knew but ignored anyway. I've spoken to a lot of single folks and some that are now dating, and I want to make sure that when I come on to these episodes and do stuff like this, I come correct with facts. And one of the things that I have picked up on is that there's a lot of recovering people pleasers with a PhD in justifying someone else's chaos. You've ignored a red flag or two, or maybe even 10, but hey, self-awareness is sexy now, right? Let's start with the obvious red flags. Not texting back for 3 days, talking bad about all their exes, never apologizing, gaslighting, constantly making you feel like you're too emotional, too needy, too anything. We've all been there. Some of us even decorated with those red flags and hell, called it a relationship. But red flags don't always scream. Sometimes they whisper. That pit in your stomach when they joke about your weight, the tension in your chest when they dismiss your dreams, the quiet eroding of your self-worth over time. Now, red flags are often less about what they do and more about what you feel when they do it. Okay, listen, now the good stuff. Let's finally move on. Talk about green flags. Not enough positivity out there, right? We don't always recognize these when we see them, especially if we grew up surrounded by dysfunction. If chaos was normal, calm can feel boring. But green flags, man, they're everything. They communicate clearly, even when it's uncomfortable, right? They respect your boundaries. They celebrate your wins. They apologize and actually change their behavior. That's a big one. They make you feel safe and seen. And yeah, it might feel weird at first. You might even start to self-sabotage. That's everyone's guilty of that one, right? But that's just your nervous system trying to unlearn what it thought was love. Green flags should feel like peace, not adrenaline. Ah, yes, the beige flags. I don't know if you guys have heard this one before. They're not quite the deal breakers, not quite the green flags, just weird little quirks that make you tilt your head. Maybe they're obsessed with minions. Maybe their entire personality is based on their Hogwarts house. Listen, beige flags aren't dangerous. They're just the things that make you pause. Sometimes they turn into red flags if they're rooted in immaturity or avoidance. Sometimes they grow on you. Sometimes they just remind you that humans are weird. And that's okay. Here's where it gets interesting. Let's talk generational contrast. As millennials, we learned to spot red flags the hard way. We didn't have TikTok therapists or Reddit threads breaking it down. We had to date, get hurt, journal about it in our Lisa Frank notebook, and maybe post an angsty status on Facebook. Gen Z, they're walking in with language we had to discover through pain. Boundaries, attachment styles, toxic traits, they speak fluent therapy. And we love that for them. Truly, we do. But while they're quick to block and walk, sometimes they miss the nuance. Not every beige flag is a red flag. Not every disagreement means incompatibility. Millennials overstay, but Gen Z, man, Gen Z goes early. We could all meet somewhere in the middle. So, what do we do with all these flags? We stay curious. I think we should listen to our bodies. We trust ourselves, and we get really honest about our own patterns. Sometimes the biggest red flag is in our own behavior. The fear that keeps us chasing chaos. The voice that tells us peace is too boring. The belief that maybe we don't deserve better. But here's the truth. We do, and hell, you do too. And the more we recognize green flags in others, the more we start living into them ourselves. So let's answer the central question. How do we decode the signals people give us and the ones that we ignore? Well, I would say maybe by slowing down, being honest, by knowing the difference between excitement and anxiety, and by remembering that love isn't supposed to be a puzzle. It should feel like clarity. If you've been loving this series so far, as I always say, head over to alexiscardoza.com. For more, follow the podcast on Apple or Spotify. Hit that sub on YouTube. We're building something really fun here, and we're continuing to do so. With that being said, on our next episode, sex ed was a joke, and now we're confused because, wow, do we have some things to unpack there. Guys, take care of your heart, and remember, this is fine.
Goodbye.